as in depth.
Mm-hmm. So if I wanted to do this, because it sounds intriguing,
Mm-hmm.
how would I choose the right coach? How would I know which would the right coach be?
Well, my first advisement always is to talk to more than one. You know, even if you're getting it from the same source, ask them to send 2 or 3 candidates to consider. Coaching is a relationship. You have to at least initially feel like that might be a relationship you want to have. You know, just like if you meet somebody new at a social gathering, if you don't click or you don't get along, you don't want to go back to another social gathering with them unnecessarily. And I say that just because also when there's an element of choice from I'll call the client, the person who's being coached, when the client is choosing, there is a more rapid progression of creating the coaching relationship because they've actually chosen. You know. Now, having said that, most coaches are, at least how I was trained and how I've seen in other coach trainings, are conditioned to you. It's your job to make the coaching relationship work. So if there is a situation where, and this has happened, I've maybe coached somebody, a senior manager, and he's decided or she's decided, this is our coach. And then you walk into a room and there's 6 people, and guess what? You get to be coached by Rob or whoever it is. And a coach should be adept enough to make that relationship work. And generally, we do. I just prefer, and I recommend that if you're seeking a coach, you seek out a couple of different people for style, what's their approach, even if they're from the same discipline of coaching, whether it be ontological, integral, behavioral, all kinds of brands, if you will. I don't think that's as much important either, as much as you really want to work with, you're going to commit, as a client, you're going to commit significant time to your coaching program. This is not, meet once a week for a couple of hours and that's it. There are assignments in between. There's work to be done. Sometimes some challenging observations of yourself or collection of observations from other people about how you're behaving as an executive in a company or as a manager in a company. And if you don't have the commitment to that relationship, or it's not a safe enough relationship for you to say what's actually happening for you, you're not going to get the same work done. So that's my first advisement. I wouldn't get too challenged by, is this person in my neighborhood or around the block? I mean, especially the more senior you get, there's some really important things to consider. The coaching relationship is most important. So if they're in, a neighboring county, country, state, go for it anyway, if that's the coach for you. One is that coaching takes place on multiple planes. Yes, there's face-to-face, and there's certain parts of a coaching relationship and certain things in a coaching relationship you wouldn't do remotely. However, lots of it can also be done virtually, by telephone, by video chat, by different ways of facilitating it, if it need be. But the other thing that's important is the difference between a coach who might be in your hometown and who might be within reasonable distance. I'm not talking about halfway around the world necessarily, but is nominal in terms of the cost. And in terms of the return on investment, making sure the coaching match is there is more important.
You mentioned return on investment, and I think right now in this economic climate that's really important. As a CEO, how do I measure the return on investment in coaching?
Well, first of all, I think one of the things that can help you determine if you want to invest in a coach is what is the financial impact of this person? 1, performing well. 2, if they left. 3, if they really cocked it up and caused a whole lot of other people to leave. So, when you look at that, if you're the CEO, the people right below you are affecting hundreds and perhaps thousands of people in your organizations by the way they communicate, the decisions they make, how they're viewed, the perception other people have of them. And if that's exactly where you want it to be, maybe they don't need any further development. Then that would not necessarily be somebody you consider for a candidate. And you're not considering them to move up to a more senior position like a member of the board or your successor. You probably don't need to approach them. If you actually look at the financial impact of this particular individual, and or that you actually are wanting them to succeed in a more senior position, and losing them would also have another financial impact. You've identified that there are some gaps in how you would like them to show up as a leader, because we really are talking leader in the organization now, not manager of a small division. Well, what would it be worth? If one shift of quality about if somebody were to go from directional to inspirational, what impact would that have on the company and the employees? If somebody were to go from certain that they were, competent in their particular discipline to really competent to leading, half of the organization or, a significant functional group of the organization, what difference and impact would that have? Coaching is a way to focus. It's like a surgical approach instead of a vast approach. When somebody's new out of grad school coming into your management program, it's fine to put them through a 3-day workshop and they're going to get a little bit of improvement. Somebody who's going to be the leader of your organization and setting the course for the next 10 to 15 years, you do actually want to know that they're on the page you want them on. And if they're not, are they willing to get there? And that could be very important information. We would spend, in fact, your organization probably does spend hundreds of thousands of dollars asking a consulting company to come in and measure engagement, or to come in and give you an advisement on what are your change processes. And all of those are valid. Would you not actually want the person who's going to take the steering wheel of a major part of your corporation to have all the development that they can? And those people, by the way, you don't want them in a 3-day workshop with the masses of population. They don't have the time. The ones that are really of high quality are going to cost you way more than coaching. And, there's value in that. I don't want to take away from that. But coaching is perhaps a much more individual-specific approach to meeting both the individual's needs and the organization's. And that's also an interesting thing. Usually, they're not that far apart. Usually at that level in an organization, even though they might have blind spots, usually the individual is aware there's something between me and my next level. And they welcome that opportunity to work on that. And I think coaching provides also a very private way of working on that it's not up on a stage and worked in the public, so to speak.
Okay, thank you very much.